Roughly around 10 years ago, I went to a photography studio for a job interview. I met the photographer. He was, and still is, a rough around the edges kind of guy. He told me about the job, go to different cities and take photos of students for school ID pictures. Different cities? Well, seeing different places might be fun, but how am I supposed to find the schools in a city I never been to? I can always ask around. What if I arrive late? Will they be mad at me? Why would they? It might be a little demanding, but I can do this. The photos they wanted were nothing fancy. Actually, they were easy to pull off. The photographer also showed me how to do it. Sounds easy, right? What if I can't pull it off? What will happen if they don't like the pictures? I'm not a photographer. I can't do it. What will that say about me? I mean, money's not good anyways. I told him that I needed time to think about it and will get back to him soon. It was going to be my first time out of town without a friend or a family member, and the first time doing photo work, so I felt overwhelmed. I'm not cut out for this. This is hard. I can't. It's not going to work. I can't do it. I backed out. I told the photographer I didn't want to do it and left. Turns out, not doing is much worse than actually doing it. I felt ashamed, incompetent, scared. Why did it turn out like this? You're shit. You can't even get a simple job done. You can't survive. You're not man enough. Why do I feel so useless and incapable? But I can't go back now. I made a decision and it's over. I never thought I was going to do it anyway. Wait. That little fucker. He made me fear. He made me change my outlook on the situation with a silver tongue, and when I caved in, he acted like it was my idea to begin with. The only thing that remained of that day was the feeling of failure. For a decade, whenever I thought about this, there wasn't a single moment that I didn't felt regret. Can't change the past now, can we? Anyway, I'm sure everyone has their own experiences with the voice in one way or another, telling us manufactured bullshit and using it in such a way that it actually sounds like it makes sense. Doesn't matter if it's something good or bad, the voice will always find a way to make us believe. Are we okay with this? Being in fear and not actually living? What needs to happen before this bullshit programming crashes? Do we have to lose our arms in order to realize we could have hung on but convinced ourselves not to? Do we have to lose our hearts in order to realize we could have fight but choose not to? Do we have to lose everything in order to realize we had everything we needed all along? Are we doomed to be the slave of our inner voices until our final breath? No, there is a way. But first, have you ever heard about the state of flow? If not, flow is basically a state of deep focus where you're completely immersed in whatever you're doing. Your whole world becomes that thing and you're the ultimate instrument in it. Psychologist Mihail Csikszentmihalyi, the most prominent advocate of the flow, defines it as follows. The ego falls away, time flies, every action, movement, and thought follows inevitably from the previous one. Like playing jazz, your whole being is involved and you're using your skills to the utmost. In short, flow is mentally achieving the Super Saiyan mode. And I'm sure everyone remembers a moment in their lives where the time flew or it just comes to me. Now, what does flow has to do with that egoistical yet arrogant little shithead inside our amygdala? Well, they're one and the same. The voice that tells you to run away when in despair is the same voice that tells you to keep going when in flow. Whatever the situation is, it's just trying to make a case for your feelings and past experiences. It is not an enemy. It is you. Sure, it talks shit all the time, but it is us. There is no separate entity. The voice is just our egos telling us to get the hell away because they're too fragile to experience bad things again. But experience of failures is what paves the road to success in 21st century. But our survival mechanism still thinks one wrong choice may result in an instant death or injury. and the voice is using this to fuel its arguments. But cavemen had valid reasons behind their fears, and for the most part, we don't. Today, the problem is our conformity, stiffing our muscles and dilating our pupils simply because we told our body and mind to do it. The many possibilities of how things could go wrong and the disruption of our safety. The endless scenarios of shit outcomes. Sure, some of them are survival based and necessary, but fearing failure, deceiving ourselves, telling ourselves that we're special, telling us that we don't have to fight when necessary. I mean, what's up with this shit? What is the worst thing that's going to happen? Failure, isolation, death? Let them. Let them come. Take the risk. Brave the storm. This is the only way to control the voice. This is the only way to actually live. If you decide to live, the voice will show the way. If you decide to run, the voice will show the way out. It is not our enemy, it is just badly programmed. So let's try to fix it, shall we? It's going to take time, but it's going to be worth it. First of all, embrace the voice. Don't fight it. Listen. Don't resist. Understand. Don't argue with it. I mean, you're going to lose most of the time. Just know that you can find a middle ground and reprogram it to help you, just like in the flow. Listen, understand, and just let it pass. It might hurt, it might sting, but if you resist it, it will always come back in waves. If you don't argue, it will pass. When you talk to yourself, be very careful. Do not talk aggressively or fearfully. Remember, anger breeds anger. Fear begets fear. I mean, when there's a hostile atmosphere in a room, we pick it up instantly and prepare ourselves, right? So what do you think happens inside? Same, but more intense. So talk to yourself in an assertive, honest, and positive way. When you wake up, tell yourself that things will work out. Every day, whatever the situation is, tell yourself that the things will fall into their place. If the voice says that you'll fail or can't do something, don't try to come up with an answer. Just tell it that you will embrace failure and fall down if necessary. Tell yourself that you will get back up, always. Whatever the situation is, tell yourself that you will rise above. Once you do it, once you're okay with the possibility of failure, it will lift a burden. Trust me, I experienced it firsthand. A few months ago, actually, I got a phone call. I knew he was going to call because a couple of days ago I told some people that I was looking for work, and one of them mentioned their photography work for student ID cards. I immediately knew and told them to give my number. I picked up the phone and realized the voice in an instant. A couple of days later, I met him. He was older, yet basically the same. He didn't recognize me, which I was okay with. He told me about the job. This time, the city I was supposed to go was the busiest and most expensive city in the country. Other people really didn't want to go there because what you needed to do was take an 11-hour bus ride and arrive in the middle of the night. Wait for the sun to rise. Find another bus. Take a trip for another hour. Find a school at the other side of the city. Take pictures for 12 hours straight. Leave. Find a cheap hotel in a pricey part of an already expensive city. Go back to take pictures for another 12 hours the next day. Leave. Use 4 different means of transportation to go to the other end of the city in a 3-hour trip. Find a reasonable place to stay and take photos at another school the next day. And I said okay. Money was still shit. Trip was unending. City was suffocating. Obviously, it wasn't worth the trouble in any shape or form. But it was personal. The voice, my programming, my inner mirror was also there from the start. And it helped me all the way. Sure, sometimes the remnants of the past creeped up on me and affected the voice, but you know, there's a time to listen and a time to go. I even made some mistakes along the way regarding the job, but they were worth it. The voice knew what I needed to do. The voice knew what I wanted to do, and I thank myself for that. We may not touch our past, but we can affect our future even if it's just a small amount. And that's worth fighting for. You want to silence the voice? Pay attention to what you say to yourself in those small, quiet moments. Be careful how you see and perceive yourself. Respect yourself for trying. Give yourself a little push, a small boost of confidence even when you don't feel like it, even when you feel like shit. Remember, the voice is always listening and taking notes. It just repeats back what you fed to yourself for all this time. Slowly but surely, some things can change. And don't worry, you will be fine.